are you? I thought I'd check up on you. Nice chatting with you.
Satellite Girl and Milk Cow is one of the most ridiculous movies I've ever seen, and I kinda loved every second of it, for the most part. This may look a bit like a Studio Ghibli film, but it's actually a Korean animation made by, actually I don't know. This movie doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Anyways, the movie is about, well, a lot of things, but primarily focuses on failing musician Kyung-chun, who turned into a milk cow because some girl broke his heart, since in this universe, broken-hearted people turn into animals, I guess. Then there's a satellite named KitSat-1, which is actually a real Korean satellite, who falls to Earth after hearing Kyung-chun sing. Then she's transformed into a cyborg by the wizard Merlin, who's a roll of toilet paper because he fell asleep on a tree that was used for paper production. You see, it just doesn't get better than that. Also, there's an incinerator, an evil guy with a plunger who chases after broken-hearted people because their livers have magical powers or something, and other stuff. And that's where the major problem with this movie comes in. There's too much going on, and I can't tell what this movie wants to be. It seems like a wholesome, bizarre fairy tale, but it doesn't keep itself focused on that idea. It jumps around between being a fantasy adventure and being a slice of life, and the ideas just don't mix because in each situation, the characters behave differently. Specifically, in the middle of the movie, it becomes like a dedicated romantic drama and disregards a lot of what was making it good. Kat just suddenly stops acting robotic and basically becomes human, and falls super in love with Kyon. Emotionless people learning human emotions is one of my favorite tropes, so I was disappointed when this movie went and threw away that whole concept. Also, at this point in the movie, Kyung starts being a jerk for no real reason, but then he also falls super in love with Kat, and the villain and Merlin and the fantasy stuff basically disappear for like 20 minutes of the movie. It eventually goes back to fantasy, but I was so caught off guard by the sudden focus on romance that the movie lost me by the end. Like, there's a lot of creative Ghibli-style world building, but none of it really goes anywhere. It was just an excuse to have a villain and a lot of magic. If they wanted this to be like a fairy tale romance, there shouldn't have even been a villain, because that just makes things complicated. The base premise with the cow and satellite falling in love is goofy and charming enough to work on its own. This could have totally worked as a slice-of-life drama movie, but it tries to mix too much together. Like, there's one scene where Kat starts listing off her weird character traits to see if Kyung would stop loving her.
Look, I'm just a flat-chested satellite. Do you still like me now?
Yeah.
My arm is a projectile. And my head. Do you still like me?
Yeah. I still like you.
I thought that was really cute, and it's a great way to drive home the moral they were going for. But in the movie's context, that scene feels sorta random and doesn't really matter. The idea of these two super weird, different things falling in love is really a poetic concept, but the movie is too all over the place for that message to hit. If this plot was a little simpler, or even if it was just a short film, it would have worked amazingly well. So even though that negative stuff distracted me, I still enjoyed a lot of what this movie had to offer. There's a great amount of goofy creativity. I loved all the character designs, especially Kat. All the Astro Boy-esque abilities she had were very fun to watch. And a lot of good jokes come from her misunderstanding of humanity. The movie is very visually charming. It's bright and vivid, though some of the actual animated movement is a bit jittery and stiff. There are a lot of really well framed and creative shots as well. It's almost like this movie had a bunch of different directors and storyboard artists, because each scene and idea seems dramatically different than the last. So it feels inconsistent, but some scenes are really good, some art is really good, and some don't really make sense at all. Though overall, I found this movie very visually appealing and creative. Also, I watched this with the English dub, and I was very surprised by the quality of it. Definitely one of the better movie dubs I've seen, though the dubs of the vocal songs weren't anything too special. They should have just kept those in Korean. This movie has a lot going for it, and the problems just come from the plot and its pacing. Even though there are problems, I still encourage you to see this movie. It's goofy, creative, and unique, and it certainly isn't the type of animated movie you see every day. Even if it isn't masterful, it deserves to be seen and supported. It's bizarre, but something about that makes it magical. You can't get beautiful weirdness like this in any other storytelling medium. It's like a weird children's story with a poetic concept and moral, but unfortunately the story's too all over the place for it to impact. This movie is available on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital download. You can even get it right from YouTube. I may have cons with it, but I wouldn't have reviewed it if I didn't want more people to know about it. So I hope you check it out if you're interested. Thanks for watching!